myself on you, yeah.
Everything that brought me alive, going around like nonsense, playing with the monsters. They brought me alive, but got no alibi. It's a lover's fight without an alibi. You took my innocence without an alibi. Everything that brought me alive, going around like nonsense.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the third PEST meetup. And yes, we already have done 3 meetups about PEST PHP, and I couldn't be more excited about that. And welcome everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for coming again to the PEST meetup. And yeah, let me know in the chat if you can hear me, send me some good vibes, and let's get started. But first of all, let's say thanks to all our sponsors from the PEST community: Accounting, Code Course, Mema, Scout APM, and Spassy. Thanks to this company, I am actually able to explain to my wife why I do spend so many time in my laptop, even after my work. So yeah, thank you so much. So let's get started. Today we have 2 talks of 15 minutes each, as usual. The first talk will be Writing Simple and Expressive Tests by Mateus Guimarães. Mateus Guimarães is a well-known member in the Laravel community. He have written blog posts around tests. He have written and made video courses around testing as well. So yeah, I'm super excited for his talk. His topic is super interesting as well. So it's great to have him here today. And the second talk will be Feature P by Luke Downing. And I'm not going to tell you what Feature P is about. If you have paid attention to Twitter, you will know what is it. But Feature P is probably the most demanded feature on PEST PHP since the stable version, all right? I'm going to let Luke explain everything about the feature P. I'm super excited for this day because of this feature, and I think you guys will like it. All right. At the end, we have, as usual, the after party, which you can make some questions on the chat if you want to. So yeah, a couple of announcements about what is new on the PEST community in the last couple of days. And man, it's been streams about PEST everywhere, which is pretty crazy. I have seen Freak, which is a member of Spassy, making streams about testing Laravel, which includes some amazing content about PEST and testing in Laravel, and it's pretty crazy. I recommend you to check his YouTube channel to see some of his videos. We also have Jason McCrary, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, the creator of Laravel Shift, which is currently building a shift for PEST that can migrate your PHP unit tests to PEST. And he actually is live coding that journey on his YouTube channel. So I recommend you to take a look, which is pretty crazy. And we have, as usual, Luke Downing again doing his live streams every week about PEST in practice. So Luke has been converting some real world applications with tests that are actually real tests to PEST. If you want to see how it looks like, I recommend you to check his YouTube channel once again. It's pretty cool. And yeah, Luke is a legend, man. So check this out. And let's move to the first talk of the day, which is Writing Simple and Expressive Tests by Mateus Guimarães. I'm going to invite Mateus here to the stage, and he is ready right now. So what's up, Mateus?
Hey, Nuno, how are you? Hey,
I'm
guys.
doing fantastic, man. And thank you so much for accepting my invitation, man. It's super
Thanks
cool
for
to have you
inviting me.
here.
It's such an honor to be here, really.
Yeah. So what is the talk is about, by the way? I'm super curious. I see this amazing title, but I would like to know a little bit what is the talk about?
So yeah, when we talk about testing, one of the reasons people don't write as many tests or are unable to write as many tests is because they're often thought to be complex and hard to write, and sometimes you have a manager that doesn't allow you to do so. I want to talk about. I want to give a few examples of very simple, expressive, easy to write, and short tests that pay off greatly on the long run.
Okay. Oh yeah, so I'm super excited to see your talk. I'm gonna leave you on the stage, man. So the stage is all yours.
Okay.
I'm gonna share your screen right now. There we go.
Okay.
And yeah, so good luck in your talk. See you at the end.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, it's your screen is perfect.
Perfect. Thanks. So guys, first of all, it's an honor to be here with Luke and Nuno. First, I want to apologize for not having a slide as cool as Luke's on the last presentation. But anyway, let's get started. So let me go to the first slide. So why do we test our applications? There are numbers of reasons to test your applications. Sometimes people like to do test-driven development, to have tests drive their code. Some people care about the stability. Some people like to know that what they're doing is working as intended. Some people write code first and test later. But at the end of the day, the tests are there to ensure that you have a stable application. In the sense of it works as intended. You have tests covering the whole thing. And tests do work as an ego boost. I'm pretty sure anyone here on the live stream that has tested knows that you get pretty happy when you have some tests passing. But still, the reason you write tests is to have a stable application, to make sure that once a bug is spotted, you can go and write a test for that bug and make sure it never comes back. That's the reason we test at the end of the day. Why do we not test our applications? Again, several reasons. Sometimes you have a boss that doesn't allow it, and this happens very often when you have a boss that's a little bit technical, but not so technical that they really understand what happens. Sometimes upper management doesn't want you to waste time with tests. Sometimes you don't know how to test your applications, and sometimes there's a cost factor. Takes too much time. You have deadlines, and you won't be able to achieve them if you waste time writing tests. And sometimes you're working on a small project and you just don't feel like need tests. But yeah, the thing is, the tests are indeed expensive. You have to not waste. You have to spend time writing them. And if you work for someone, they're paying you to use the time. So sometimes it's hard to understand why you would spend time doing this instead of writing code. And move on. If you can writing a task, then the most obvious idea is to write the task for your app's core features. What do I mean with this? Imagine you have an e-commerce website. So you might not have the time to write tests for all of the pages, but if you do have some time to write tests, you should spend the time testing the checkout page, testing that users can add items to their cart, testing that users can register, because that's the core of the app. I mean, if the homepage is broken, okay, that's not a huge deal. Someone's going to spot it and you can fix it. But if the checkout's broken, you're literally losing money. And that's the what we usually do. We test what's the most important pieces of the app. And as we get more time, we start testing the less important pieces of the app. Well, before I go to this slide, let me talk real quick. So I like to think of tasks kind of like stocks that pay huge dividends. It takes a while to write them. Sometimes they're complex and you spend quite a while writing them, but they pay off in the long run real quickly and much quicker than you expect to. So let's do some math. Let's say you work full-time and you write 5 tests a day. I'm talking about all kinds of tests. It could be unit tests, it could be feature tests, but you write 5 tests a day. That might even be a small number. And you work 5 days a week. In a year, you're going to have 1,300 tests. If you do 5 pushes to the repository a day, 5 times a week, you have 25 CI pipeline runs in a week. So if you have, once you reach those 1,300 tests and you have them properly set up, you're running each week 32,000 tests. Every week, you're running 3,200,000 tests. So that's how tests scale. Now, bear with me for a while. Imagine, you don't have to imagine, I'm sure you've worked on an app that it might not be really big, but it's not, a side project or a pet app anymore. It is literally impossible to test it manually. You just don't have the manpower to do it. You have several pages, you have several roles, you have several custom rules. There's no way to manually go into. You might even do it every once in a while, but you cannot do it every day, and you cannot do it on every push to the repo. So that's why tests are important. The thing is with tests is you write the test once, but it works for you forever until you have to change that piece of code. The test is running all the time. So I'm sure some of you must have experienced this. You have a piece of the app that you got to change, and it relies on a dependency. And you go, oh, okay, to fix this, I got to change this code here on this dependency, and you change it, and it breaks another piece of the app that you didn't know of, and you only find out about this when a user reports a bug or a teammate spots the issue. But that happens that happens much more often than it should. And this is why tests are so important, because you can spend a small piece of time. You can spend even with fast it's even easier, but you can spend a little bit of time to make sure that you're not going to have issues later down the road. So sometimes I like to think of, when I'm explaining this, I like to think of tasks as stocks that might be a little bit expensive, but they pay themselves real quickly. I mean, ridiculously fast. If you just look at those numbers, I mean, does it make sense not to write tests when you have such an upside? So take a look at this arrow. So take this with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that unit tests are not worth it or anything like that, but that's pretty much it. Unit tests are simple tests. They they are easier to write. They involve less dependencies. They involve less entities. They don't cover as much as the feature or system tests that you have to the right of the arrow, but they're easier to write. They're faster. And on the right side, you have the feature and system tests that are more complex. Sometimes, if for instance, you have Laravel Dusk, which involves a browser. There are more verbals. You have to write more code on your tasks. Usually, it requires more setup, so you have to really set up a scenario. If you have an e-commerce, for the checkout page, you're going to have to set a user, to set some products, set a billing address, set a fake payment gateway, all of that stuff. And they take a little bit longer to write, but they do provide more value in the sense that they test more things. So you can have lots of unit tests, and maybe your checkout doesn't work, but you can have feature tests for the checkout, and you can make sure the entire feature works. So moving on, I want to talk about simple, meaningful tests with PEST. And what I mean with this is, like I said, one of the reasons people don't write as many tests as they should, it's because sometimes they don't have enough time. Sometimes it takes too much time to write tests. It's too verbose. You have to write lots of classes, and you have to write lots of methods. So before I move on here, I want to say that I don't want to bash PHP unit. PHP unit's great, but PHP itself is a fairly verbose language. And because of this, PHP unit is a little verbose as well, but it's great. PEST runs in PHP unit. However, I'm saying this from my experience. It may vary depending on who's saying this, but I've been working for a while as a freelancer, and one of the things I do is introduce tests in certain organizations. And one of the things I noticed is, even when people test their applications, sometimes they don't test as much, because there's the whole boilerplate of creating a new method, creating a new class, and writing all this stuff. So if you want to have a simple test, you need to have at least, I don't know, 6 lines just to have a class, more a couple lines to have a method. So it might not be, as in they go and say, oh, I'm not going to test this, but they might, I'm not a psychologist, but they might just go, oh, let's just skip this. And that's what happens. Sometimes they don't write as many tests as they should. I don't write as many tests as I should as well. But one of the things that I love about PEST is how simple it is. Both the tests and it's the expectation API as well. And thanks, Luke, for that. So when you remove that entry barrier, because there is an entry barrier for tests, and Laravel makes it so much easier. But still, there's it's a little bit complicated. You have to set up some things. When you remove that, everything becomes so much easier. So I want to give you guys a few examples of tests that are super simple, that may seem silly, but they pay off greatly in the long run. And again, you can do this with PHP unit as well. I'm using PEST because I love the syntax, I love the API, I love how it works. So let's move on. So how many tests do we have on this file? If you take a quick glimpse, you might go and say, hey, we have 3 tests. But the truth is, we have 5 tests there. Because take a look at this first test. Don't even read the beginning. Go to the last line. We have the with method, which is a data set on PEST, and PHP unit also has this. But look how simple it is to set up a test with a data set on PEST. So if we go and read the test very carefully, it loads the dashboard for every type of user. Imagine you have an application, and you have certain roles, And on the dashboard page, you might display different things depending on the role. So if it's an admin, you might show the monthly recurring revenue of your app. If it's excuse me, if it's a manager, you might want to show how many users they're handling. If it's a user, you might want to show data related to their profile. So this test is as simple as it gets. It acts as a user. If you don't know what it is, it's tricking Laravel into thinking it's logged in as that user. And we create a user inside the method itself just to save some space. So we're calling a user factory and we're creating a user. But you can see that we're passing this role to the factory, and we're getting this role from the data set. So this task is actually going to run 3 times, one for role admin, one for role manager, and one for role user. So you have 3 tasks on one. And then the task simply makes a get request to the dashboard route, URL, and then it makes sure the response was okay. So you might think, okay, this is super silly. Why would I write a task for something so simple and for the dashboard, which is probably the first page users access? And that's the thing. You have 3 roles here. So are you really going to test this for each type of user every time you make a change? Because that's why this task is a protection for a disaster scenario. I'm sure some of you may have went through this, but I mean, you have a view and you change something and you have a typo. You have a typo in a variable. And when you test it, you get the undefined variable error. And sometimes you change something and you don't test it right away. It's a small verbiage change. You just, it's simple. Let me just change this and deploy. And when you open up the app, it's broken. That happens super often. And this super silly, simple test, it won't guarantee that the admin is going to see what they should. It's not going to guarantee that the manager is going to see what they should. But it is going to guarantee that your app will not crash because of a typo, because of a wrong if condition, because you're calling a method that doesn't exist on an object. That's simply not going to happen because you have a test running all the time. And if the dashboard page uses a dependency, for instance, you could use a method on the user model. What could happen is you could change this method to be used in someplace else, and it could break the dashboard page. And this test would catch it. So it's a super silly, simple test. It has 5 lines, and it can save you from crashing your app. And I think almost every developer has gone through this, make a quick, small change that you're super confident of, and it breaks the app. And that's the catch. You cannot be confident on making changes without tests. You might think you are confident, but you're not, because you cannot make sure the app works. And that's why tests are so important. Tests allow me to sleep at night. I can get a pull request at 11 p.m. If the test pass, I know it's working, and I can sleep safely. I don't have to be worried about making sure the app's working, checking flare or bugs, negative for exceptions. It gives me this peace of mind. So again, data sets, simple tests. We have 3 tests in one. And you probably wouldn't test each user role every time you make a change. I know you might say you will, but you won't. And one more thing. The cool thing about those tests is that they're really simple to write. You can write this test in less than 2 minutes. You don't need to have a lot of experience to write it. So one of the other things with testing is that usually you got to write them along with the code. Sometimes we lie to ourselves and say, oh no, I'm going to write the code and then we're going to test it. And for some people, that's fine. But I would say for the majority of people, including me, that doesn't work. Sometimes I write the code and I write a few tests, but not as many as I should have. And I'm not even saying about test-driven development. I'm not talking about writing the test first. I'm just saying about writing the test along with the feature. So if you added a small feature to your code, just create a small test. Sometimes you don't have time to write it, just leave it empty and make sure you come back to it. So that's one of the cool things about this type of test. Moving on to the next one. It redirects a user, an authenticated user, to the login page. You might think, okay, this is dumb. This is probably done through a middleware. Why would you want to test this? And that's exactly it. Imagine you forgot to add the middleware. Imagine someone removed it. Imagine there's a huge pull request that removed it by mistake. Why would you, refuse to have this level of content that you can get with 3 lines? Look at this. This uses higher order tests, which is a super cool feature from Fast. We don't even have to pass a closure. We can just chain methods, and we have a test running with 3 lines. And if I wish to, I can make this 1 line. It's just going to be very big. So this is an example of test that might seem silly, that might seem unnecessary, because the auth middleware is already tested on Laravel. But we as people, as humans, we make mistakes more often than we should, more often than we would like. So I don't see a reason not to have this reassurance with 3 small lines. The same goes for the last test. A disable account is redirected to the payment page. Imagine you have your own implementation, your own payment implementation, and once the user is, I don't know, it's been 3 days and they haven't paid, their account gets disabled. You can write a super simple test to make sure that if they try to access the dashboard, they go into the billing information page. And you may think, okay, this is silly. You can add a check. Okay, you can add a check, but can you make sure that it's always redirecting them to the billing information? What if you add an abort method there that throws a 401? So it's going to block their access to the dashboard page, but it's not going to take them to the billing information. So this is the kind of reassurance that I like to have, and that PEST makes so easy, because not only is this readable, if you get someone who's not a developer, they might not really understand the actingness method and the user factor method. But if you explain this to them, they're going to understand the entire thing real quickly. And let's move on to the next test. So here's an example that I wasn't going to include it, but I think I should. Sometimes you have static pages on your app, and I'm saying this because it happened to me on a team I worked with. A typo can break a page. You might have a wrong method. You might have a missing object. So with data sets and PEST, you might have seen this being called as smoke testing, but you can make this kind of test real quick. You just pass a data set with the path of some pages, and you can have a test running in what does it take me to write this? 1 minute, 2 minutes, making sure those pages load, including the home page, which is probably the most important page of your application. So simple test. You might think it doesn't provide much value, but it saves you from the disaster scenario, the scenario where someone is half asleep and it's 11 p.m. and they change something on the homepage real quick because someone asks to, and push it to production to go to sleep. And, it's a typo and the app breaks. I'm sure some of you have been through this. And to the last examples, I want to talk a little bit about mailables and notifications, because that's something that I see fail very often because of typos. You already have the mailables in place, you already have the notifications in place, and sometimes you just want to do a copy change and you miss a variable, you change the name of the variable, you call a method that doesn't exist, and it breaks the mailable. It's not going to render. So take a look at this first test. It builds the mailable properly. So, I mean, you don't have much context out of this. It's just saying that it builds the mailable. And if you take a look at the text, it just created an instance of this payment failed email, passing a user as an argument. And then we use the expectation API from PEST to make sure the subject is what we want it to be. But we could even ignore this. We could ignore the subject. Focus on the last line, the render not to be null. So you might be thinking, okay, what is this? So it makes sure that you avoid the disaster scenario. Because if you try to call render and you have an undefined variable, or you try to call a method on that happens super often when you have a relationship and you don't have the relationship loaded, it doesn't exist on the database, and you try to call a method on no. I'm sure all of you have seen this error. Try to call blah 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 on no. It saves you from this. It's a super simple task, but it makes sure the mailable renders, and you won't be surprised when the app is live and the whole thing breaks and you cannot send emails because there was a typo on an email. That happened to me, and I'm sure it happens to other people. And the same example goes to notifications. If you've ever used Laravel notifications, it basically wraps over mailables, and it allows you to write emails using the notification API. So instead of writing HTML, you can write a couple methods. You can call the action method, you can call the text method, and you can build your own notifications. So same thing, just create a notification. You can see that it added an additional exception just to make sure the notification is going to be sent through the proper channels, so mail and Slack. But that's something you could leave out as well. The focus is on the message object. When you call the to mail method, which is what actually it sends, it's when you get the mailable object. Not a mailable, actually, it's a mail message object. That's when you have your actual message. So if you have a typo on that method and you just test, new payment failed notification, you might not catch it. But if you test the mail message, you're going to catch it. So you might have the wrong subject, the wrong action text, the wrong action URL. But if you have a disaster there, this test is going to catch it as well. So I would say this presentation is mostly about avoiding disaster scenarios with cheap alternatives. If you go back real quick, how do I go back? Okay. Let's take a look at this test real quick. I know it's being a little over 15 minutes, but I want to look at it. Okay. This task is so simple that it's a little bit ridiculous. Like, you write this and you go like, am I really testing something? Because it's super simple. It's just a GET request. It doesn't do anything fancy. And I'm a huge fan of feature tests. So the tests I like to write are usually, fairly big. They test a lot of things. They're complex. But this one that's child's play. And the way PEST allows you to quickly spin up tests, set up data sets, use the expectation API, which is super robust. It just makes the entire testing experience much more pleasurable, which means that you're likely to write more tests. So if you like to write tests, you will likely write more tests. And if tests are easy to write and fast to write, you are going to write more tests. And when you write this kind of tests, which is, I don't have a name for them, but simple, meaningful, expressive tests, anyone can understand what the test does by its name. Anyone can understand what the test does real quick by reading it, and it saves you from the disaster scenario anytime you're going to push to your Git repo or that you deploy your code. So yeah, this is my talk. Let me go back to the last slide, which is a thank you page. So thank you all for watching, and thanks, Nino, for giving me the opportunity to talk here. If you've enjoyed this talk, you can keep in touch with me and up to date with everything I do, mainly through Twitter. I have my YouTube channel as well with lots of free lessons. There's my blog with some blog posts. There's my TTD course, and there's also my free 30 days of Laravel course. So I hope you guys were able to take out something from this talk. Take everything with a little grain of salt. The time is limited, but like I said, this is not a technical talk. It's more of a concept talk, and maybe mind opening for some of you to understand how valuable tests is, because we talk about how how important tests are all the time, but it's the kind of thing that's hard to measure, because if you don't get an error because you had a test, how are you going to know that you did not get an error because you had a test? How are you going to know that you would have gotten the error if you didn't have a test? So that's the kind of thing that's hard to measure. But when you go back to the math, it starts to make sense real quickly. So thank you all for watching again. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
Whoa, absolutely amazing talk, Matthias. The feedback on the chat, it's pretty fantastic. People are super surprised how, mainly because of the fact that you just showed a couple of tests that take seconds to write, and it basically there is no excuses now to say you don't have time to write tests.
That's exactly the point. I mean, if you're going to spend 2 times writing the test, it might save you, in 2 months. It's probably worth it.
Yeah, man. I think your talk is pretty eye-open. This is basically the type of content I've been talking with Freak as well on Telegram, which is people just overthink testing, and testing takes seconds, man. And you just have to show it amazing examples how to test my marketing page, my About Us page, how to test my mail very quickly with the Expectation API. And I really love this kind of content. And I wish, to be honest, that all the video courses, articles, everything on the web was just like this.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate
People
it.
really overcomplicate testing. They start talking about mocks when people don't even they have the mindset around testing. And I
Yeah.
just wish when I have started with testing that things were a little bit like this.
Yeah, I mean, when it started, it was super hard, and I actually started because of Adam Wathan, and
Yeah,
he made everything so simple. The way,
yeah,
because I was looking into unit tests, mocks, and stubs, and we're like, I don't know what you're talking about, and Adam would just go, you know what, just make this test, make a post request to your route, and make sure like your blog post was saved. And we're like, oh, I mean,
yeah.
it
And
makes much more sense than the low level stuff. So
yeah, I think you hit the nail. It's pretty fantastic talk, man. Congratulations. And
thanks,
thank
dude.
you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for
All right,
watching.
so yeah, you can just leave the stream if you want to, and just join us on the after party. Eventually, if we have time, because right now we are already on 40 minutes. Let's see how many time talk of
Yeah, sorry
Luke
about that,
takes.
guys.
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, I'm
All
going
right.
to leave
See you in a
the
second, man.
StreamYard
Thank you
and
so
see
much.
all okay, see you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, so now I'm gonna call Luke. First of all, I'm gonna share my screen. So yeah, we just had Matheus Guimarães, a fantastic talk, really about the fundamentals of testing. People overthink testing; they think that it's complicated, and Matheus really showed some really nice examples about how make things simple with testing and how actually write tests that takes a couple of seconds. Fantastic. All right, so second talk of the day, we now have Feature P by Luke Downing. And I mean, if you don't know Luke, I don't know what you are doing at this time, because Luke has been a fantastic contributor on the PEST community in terms of features, talks, online content, and everything. I'm going to just invite Luke here to the stream. I just caught you drinking a beer, man. Maybe it's water, man. But anyways, and yeah, man, today you are here to speak about the Feature P, man, right?
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
Yeah, we have announced the Feature P today on Twitter. Yet maybe some of the audience is not doesn't have Twitter, so I'm going to let you talk about this fantastic feature that people are expecting for this since forever. So stay on the chat and just put your seatbelt, because things are about to get hot, right? So yeah, Luke, you can share your screen, which is right here. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna let you take the stage.
All right. Am I okay? Can you see the full screen there? Is that good?
Yeah, it's perfect, man. I'm seeing Feature P with some colors, like the rainbow.
All right. Awesome. All right. Hi, everybody. It's good to be back. Didn't expect to be back quite so soon, but it is an honor to be able to release and reveal Feature P today. It's been being teased for a few weeks, but being worked on for far longer. So it's nice to finally get it into your hands, and I hope you love it. In case you haven't been on Twitter or haven't looked at the PEST code base recently, Feature P is parallel. So today PEST is receiving first-party parallel support. It's based on the amazing work of Paratest. So it's built on a solid foundation, and we've customized it and built on top of it to implement what we think is a really seamless experience for parallel testing in PEST. And I'm looking forward to showing that to you. But if you're newer to testing, you may not know what parallel is or why it's such a big deal. So let's just spend a couple of minutes discussing why this is such a cool feature. How does PEST run today? Well, PEST has always run in series, and you can imagine this as a set of race cars on a single track heading toward the finish line. The race cars can't overtake each other, so they run one at a time. And if you have a slow car up front or a long-running test, that holds up the fast cars or the short-running test from being able to pass the finish line quickly. And so as your test suite grows, as you get more tests, it causes a linear increase in the length of your test suite. As an example, we have an application we work on at the company that I work for, 804 tests that run in 23.22 seconds. Now, that's not terrible. That's actually quite fast for 800 tests, but we're going to see it get even better in just a moment. Let's now discuss PEST in parallel. You can imagine this as each test case being given its own racetrack, right? So there's nothing in front of the test case to stop it passing that finish line. The tests run side by side. Those fast cars, those short tests, are free to pass the finish line, while those slower tests are still heading towards it. And over time, this causes an exponential decrease in the length of your test suite. As an example, that very same suite from earlier, from the last slide, takes just 12.37 seconds in parallel. That's a 50% reduction just by using parallel over series. The main takeaway is that the more tests you have, the bigger your test application, the larger the time savings are going to be. So if you've got a big test suite, or you're planning on having a big test suite, parallel is your savior. Here are some real life examples from our early testing of PEST parallel. Sam Rowden, who's a member of the Laravel community, I work closely with him. His test suite was running in 101 seconds. With PEST parallel, it runs in 39. Sparsy, well, their Odia. Oh, could you try again? Siri's having a chat. Odia's test suite ran in 346 seconds. It now runs in just 107. Oliver Newbro's Nightlands, 150 seconds down to 34 with parallel. And Worksom's test suite, which took 530 seconds, now takes just 201 with PEST parallel. That's over 300 seconds just by using parallel. But we've been trained to believe and think that nothing comes for free. So there must be some catch, right? I'm here to tell you that there is no catch. It is so easy to get started with PEST parallel. So easy, in fact, that I'm going to show you exactly how to do it in a real package. Let's quit the slideshow and get to the code. I'm going to be demoing this in Rico Rock's SOAP Laravel package. Now, SOAP is a package that basically allows you to work with SOAP APIs in a much nicer way. Sadly, we still have to work with SOAP APIs occasionally, so thank goodness for this package. But the cool thing about this package is it has a full PEST suite. Now, this will run in PHP unit suites as well, so don't worry. But this has a full PEST suite, so that's a bonus. So in our terminal, I'm just going to show you this running using vendor bin PEST, and we'll see the standard PEST output. And you can see this test runs in 3.77 seconds. Not bad. You're used to seeing this. This is exactly what you get when you run the PEST runner. I'm on v1.16 of PEST, and I'm just going to try tagging on the parallel option and see what happens. It's going to tell me that parallel support requires the PEST parallel plugin, and it's going to give me the exact code I need to run to get this up and running. So let's enter that into our terminal. We'll quickly install the parallel plugin, and then I'll go back and rerun that parallel command. Now, everything's going to look very similar, but you'll notice the time has gone from 3.7 seconds to 0.7 seconds. How cool is that? What a huge saving. The reason I mentioned that everything looks very similar is because we have worked incredibly hard to make this an invisible, seamless experience. You can see that the output is identical. It's as if you forgot to run parallel and your test suite just got a million times faster. The only real indication is up here at the top. We get this little output that tells us we're running PEST in parallel using 8 processors. How nice is that? Now, for the rest of the talk, I'm going to be shortening this to the shortcut, which is -P. So there's a -P option that will do the exact same thing. Let's take a look at what error output looks like in PEST parallel. I'll come into this test here, and let's just add a second R to foobar. And we'll run this again, and you'll see we have full collision error reporting. We have the full stack trace, all the beautiful code output that we're used to with collision. If we scroll back up here, you can see we have our failure, we have our little X and our output. And even on the skips, things like that, we have all the information we need that tells us exactly why the test was skipped. How nice is that? I think it's just so seamless. It feels natural. Sometimes you'll forget you're even running the parallel option. Let's remove that error and get our tests passing again. That's what we always want, right? Here's some other cool things about PEST parallel. All of the options that you expect to work with PEST still work with PEST parallel. So for example, I can do -- coverage. And I'll tell you what, if you've not seen coverage before, let me remove the parallel option. Coverage is basically the amount of tests or the percentage of code covered by your test suite. Think of it that way. And PEST includes this gorgeous coverage output that tells you exactly how much each file contributes to the test suite. And if you have any tests that don't pass over a certain amount of code, so if you have pieces of code that aren't tested, it will tell you exactly which lines you need to go and add tests for. Well, this coverage works perfectly in parallel. So if I output this, you'll see I get the exact same coverage output, but with the gorgeous speed of parallel testing. I can even add something like --min equals 90, which says basically if the code coverage percentage is 90% or lower, then fail. And when this runs, you'll see we get an error code of failure. And if this was in a continuous integration environment, the pipeline would fail, and that would tell you you need to go write more tests. So it works seamlessly with PEST parallel. It just feels natural. It feels right. One of the other things I'm really proud of, and let's open perhaps a different test to show this. Let's come in here. Intelligent builder test. This will be. In PEST, there's a really cool method. It's called only, right? And it looks a bit like this. If you tag only onto a test, rather than having to filter down your tests and find the right test case to run on its own, you can just write only, and that will be the only test run. Well, this works perfectly in parallel too. And you might be thinking, well, I'd expect it to work perfectly in parallel. But this actually took tons of effort, because this is not something that coincides very well with the way that parallel works by default. So we spent hours and hours trying to work out the best way to make only work in PEST. And that's the awesome thing about the PEST team taking it upon themselves to build parallel support into PEST. It's such a seamless integration. If we go and add another only down here, we run this in parallel again. Now those are the only two tests that run in parallel. So it's a really nice experience. One of the things you'll note, I'll just get rid of these onlys, is we get this output saying running PEST in parallel using 8 processors. Now that just happens to be the number of cores in my Mac Mini CPU. But what if you want to run a different amount of processors? So if we run this in parallel, we get 0.71 seconds. We can use the -- processors option and specify the number of processors we want to use. Let's try 15 and see if we get any better results. Now we're running in just 0.57 seconds. So you can use the processors option to play around with how many processors get booted. And by doing that, you can squeeze out a little bit of extra performance here and there. So have a play around with the processors option. Final thing I want to show you is our support for Laravel. Obviously, on the PEST team, we are very close to Laravel. We all use it in our day-to-day lives. Nuno works for Laravel, so we do not want to leave Laravel out when it comes to PEST in any way. Here I have opendoor.me. Now, if you don't know, opendoor.me is the subject of PEST in Practice. It's what we've been building the PEST tests on in the PEST in Practice series. And this has a full PEST suite. So let's try vendor bin PEST, and you'll see these tests running in PEST. Now, what you might not know is that the PHP artisan test command already worked with PEST. That's to say, if you run PHP artisan test and you have PEST installed, it will automatically run PEST rather than PHP unit. Well, as of Laravel 8.55, you can now do PHP artisan test -- parallel, and it will detect that you want to use PEST parallel instead of paratest. How awesome is that? So you can use all of the commands you're used to in Laravel, and they will just work with PEST out of the box. What's even nicer is that the parallel hooks that are supported by Laravel also work in PEST parallel. So that allows you to do some really cool setup scenarios in your parallel test suites. I don't want to go much further into this. You can go try everything out. You can see the performance improvements on your own test suites. But just to say, we have a lot in store for parallel going forward. We've already found various performance increases that we can work on. So we're actively working on those at the moment. We're working on PHP Storm integration. We're working on compact view modes and a full hook system that allows you to take parallel to the next level. So we can't wait to carry on releasing things in the near future. Just remember that PEST parallel is currently in beta. So if you find any issues, just let us know and we'll do our best to iron them out. Let's get back to the presentation. I just want to say a few big thank yous. PEST is not a one-man effort. First of all, thank you to Nuno. If he hadn't created PEST, I would not have been able to work on PEST Parallel. And he's been super busy. He's got his Laracon talk. He's been away on vacation. He has still taken the time out to pair with me, to help me out, to take a look at various things, give feedback, and prepare for the PEST meetup. Thank you for all the effort, Nuno. It doesn't go unnoticed. I also want to thank the core PEST team. They have been awesome. I spam them every day with suggestions, questions, ideas, ask them to test things. And they've even gone as far as to translate the blog that was announced with the release on Twitter into various different languages. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate all the help. Would not have been able to do it without you. I also want to give a special mention to Adrian. Adrian reached out to me originally and asked to work on Parallel with me. And he has contributed a ton of ideas to Parallel. He's helped push various features forward. And in all honesty, without him, I probably wouldn't have started work on it. So thank you so much, Adrian. Really appreciate all the help and support that you've given. On that note, I want to hand it back to Nuno, but just to say that if you appreciate and use PEST in your day-to-day life, do consider supporting the work, sponsoring myself, sponsoring Nuno, sponsoring the core PEST team, and helping us, because it really gives us the opportunity to spend more time developing new and better features for PEST. But with that, thank you very much for listening, and I'll hand back to Nuno.
Whoa, man. Congratulations. What a fantastic talk, man. You pretty much look like Steve Jobs, man. I must be honest. Fantastic talk, man. When you showed me your slides like days ago, I didn't know that they were so pretty. I think, look, I have to be honest with you. I never thought that someone, including me, would be able to pull out parallel testing in PEST like this. It's pretty impressive that you managed to make all the features, including collisionary reporting, coverage, the printer output, all of those things, which are pretty much which are complicated, and you managed to make everything work seamlessly. It's pretty impressive, man. And congratulations, and thank you so much for bringing this parallel testing feature for us. Everyone is super excited, and I really hope that you stay in the community for many months, because it's pretty fantastic the work you do here, man.
It's a pleasure to be able to help out. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to work on PEST.
Yeah, man. Everyone in the chat they really loved your talk, and yeah, what amazing meetup, man. We had like 2 amazing speakers, and it's getting better and better. I mean, these talks today were mind blowing, man. The first talk by Mateus Guimarães, he did a fantastic job showing how simple writing tests is. And now you show parallel testing, which is just the most demanded feature since the stable version of PEST. And yeah, I'm super excited. And I think I'm going to end up the meetup right now. It's been 1 hour since the beginning. And I think we are going to close the meetup right now, because we ended with golden key. It's pretty much fantastic, man. Thank you for that.
You are very welcome.
Everyone in the chat, thank you so much for all the feedback. We had tons of comments. People got surprised during the talks to see how easy it is to test with PEST. Everyone got super excited about parallel testing. People didn't expect it. We got well-known members on the community on the chat as well. And yeah, man, this is getting better and better, and it's pretty crazy. Thank you so much for everyone in the community for staying on that side. And yeah, meetup number 4, it will probably come up next month. Let's see how it goes, man, because as Luke said, I'm very busy. I've been very busy with my vacations. You mentioned that, which was funny. But but yeah, meetup number 4 will probably come in September. Let's see who is coming. I haven't prepared yet the meetup number 4. Normally I prepare things in advance, but meetup number 4 is not ready yet. But let's see how it goes. And like Adrian says here in the chat, I'm also super happy to see the PEST community growing. And it's we are living a momentum, and I hope to see and to keep seeing this momentum staying for a while. So yeah, I'm going to close right now. Thank you so much for everyone for staying on that side. Thank you, Mateus and Luke, for those 2 amazing talks, and thanks for everyone who was in the chat. See you on the meetup number 4. Bye, everyone.